Hi guys, here's your lesson for Friday, June 5th. It's your last lesson that we're going to be learning for the year. So, this is going to be converting standard to vertex form. So the last lesson we went from vertex to standard form, and this lesson we're going to go the opposite way, using something called completing the square. Okay, so completing the square, is basically the same formula as almost the same formula as finding your axis of symmetry. Okay, when we complete the square, we do something with our b value that's going to help us simplify our equation so we can change it into the vertex form. Okay, basically we take our b value, we divide it by 2, and then we square it. Okay, and you're going to see what that looks like in just 1 second. So, when we go from standard to vertex form, okay, we want to make the equation go from this to this. Okay, so the first step we're going to start with is we're going to set the equation equal to 0. So I have x squared minus 10x plus 11 equals 0. Okay, next step, we're going to move the c value, which is positive 11, to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. So I cancel my 11s, and I have x squared minus 10x, leave yourself some space, equals negative 11. So here's where the completing the square part comes in. Okay, on the side, in a separate workspace, you're going to take your b value, which is negative 10, and we're going to use that equation that we just talked about, or that formula, b divided by 2 squared. So instead of b, I'm going to put my b value, which is negative 10, divided by 2 squared. Okay? Negative 10 divided by 2 gives me negative 5. Negative 5 squared gives me 25. Okay? I'm going to take this 25 and I'm going to add it to both sides of my equation. Now, let's simplify a little bit. X squared minus 10x plus 25 equals negative 11 plus 25 gives me positive 14. Now, I want to simplify this x squared minus 10x plus 25. The reason that we did completing the square is we made this piece of the equation a perfect square. Okay, and all that entails is now we can convert this to x. I'm going to take what I had inside the parentheses, okay, minus 5 squared. And if you actually do x minus 5 times x minus 5, you get what we originally had here, equals 14. So now remember, it's starting to look something like this. We're almost there. Okay, this helps us make it look like the vertex form. Now, I'm going to move my 14 back to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. And I have x minus 5 squared minus 14 equals 0, right? The 14's canceled out. There's my vertex form, guys. Okay, so now I can write up here f of x equals x minus 5 squared minus 14. What you have to remember is that both of these equations are exactly the same. Okay? They just look different. You have your standard form here and your vertex form here. Okay, now let's answer some of the questions. The y-intercept. Well, we all know we find the y-intercept from the standard form. Okay, it's the constant term at the end. So my y-intercept is y equals 11. My vertex, I go to my vertex form, hence why it's called vertex form, and I use my two numbers. I take the first number and I make it a pi. I change the sign. If it's negative, we move to positive. I take the second number and I leave it the same as it is. Axis of symmetry. Well, easy. If I know that my x value of my vertex is 5, it's the same as for my axis of symmetry. Okay, A. Since there's no A, remember A is here. If there's nothing in front of my parenthesis here, it's 1, which means it's positive, which is going to make the parabola open up. And if it opens up, we're going to have a minimum value. All right, we're going to do this again because I know this is a little bit confusing. It's very algebra heavy, okay? All right, let's convert this quadratic function from standard form. So right now we're in standard form. And we're going to go to vertex form. Okay, first things first. We're going to set this equation equal to 0. We're going to move my c value, which is negative 91, to the other side. So plus 91, plus 91. Leave yourself some space. X squared plus 6x blank equals 91. Now we're going to do that completing the square formula. B divided by 2 squared. Okay, my b value for my equation is positive 6. So I'm going to put 6 where b is, and I'm going to simplify. Inside the parentheses, 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 3 squared gives me 9. So I'm going to take that 9 that I just got and I'm going to add it into both sides. Plus 9, plus 9. Simplify. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 91 plus 9 gives me 100. Alright. That allowed me, this changed this to a perfect square. So now I can take my parentheses and I take the number that I had inside my parentheses right before your answer, and I put it inside. So x plus 3 equals 100. All right, last step to change this to vertex form is I'm going to move this back to the other side. So I'm going to do minus 100 on both sides. The 100s cancel. I'm left with 0. And now I have x plus 3 squared minus 100. Now we're in vertex form. Okay, so my vertex form now, I can write a of x equals x plus 3 squared minus 100. Okay, let's fill in the questions here. The y-intercept. Remember, I go to my standard form. My y-intercept is the constant at the end, so y equals negative 91. My vertex, I'm going to use the vertex form. I take the first number and I change its sign. So not positive 3, but negative 3. I take the second number just as it looks. Axis of symmetry. Same value as my my x value in the vertex, so x equals negative 3. My a here is positive, right? It's 1. So if it's positive, we know it opens up. And if it opens up, we know we have a minimum value. All right, last problem for today, guys. Okay, so we have standard form here, and we're going to change to vertex form. So I take my equation, x squared plus 4x plus 3, and I set it equal to 0. Next thing, I'm going to move my c value, which is positive 3, to the other side. So I do the opposite, minus 3 minus 3. 3's cancel. I'm left with x squared plus 4x equals negative 3. That missing space I want to fill, so I'm going to use my formula for completing the square. My b value is positive 4, so I put 4 where b is. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. 2 squared, 2 times 2 gives me 4. So now, I'm going to do plus 4 on both sides. And we're going to clean it up. X squared plus 4x plus 4 equals negative 3 plus 4 is 1. By completing the square, I allowed myself to take this number on the inside, it's a positive 2, and write this inside the parentheses, x plus 2 equals 1. The last step is I want to move my 1, my number on my right side, back to the other side. So I'm going to do minus 1, minus 1. The 1's cancel. I'm left with x plus 2 squared minus 1 equals 0. There's your vertex form. So I can write b of x equals x plus 2 squared minus 1. Alright, let's answer some of the questions. So, my y-intercept, I go to my standard form and I use my constant term, y equals 3. My vertex, I go to vertex form. I take the first number and I change its sign. So not positive 2, so negative 2. I take the second number and I write it as it is. I do not change the sign. My axis of symmetry, I use my x value. My a, well, there's no number in front of the parentheses, so it's got to be 1, which is positive, which means it opens up. If it opens up, means I have a minimum value. Okay, guys, that's it for today. That's it for this last lesson. Although this is the last lesson for the year, just keep in mind that I might post something else, something fun for you guys to do, and a goodbye message. So please, stay tuned and take a look at Google Classroom. All right, guys, let me know if you have questions. Have a good day.